What's good, everybody? Welcome back to ATL Day Ones. I am Tenitra, that is Jarvis, and we appreciate you guys for joining us each and every day to talk Atlanta sports and also joining the Locked On Sports Network. So, listen, wherever you get your podcast, make sure you download this podcast and leave us a 5-star review. We appreciate you for it, and continue to check us out on YouTube. Subscribe to the channel and make sure you give us a follow and like us as well because, hey, we give you the good stuff. So, you should give us a like. Now, we got some good stuff, but mostly not good stuff from the Braves. They opened a 7-game homestand last night, 4-game set, of course, against the Phillies. And Tucker Davidson was on the mound for the Braves, and it went downhill as quickly as he
Lord.
got on the hill. So, like literally, just yeah, was just not his night, and really not the Braves' night because you're talking 11 hits on the night and 3 singles that lead to your 3 runs. But other than those moments in time, really not a lot in the way of offense, and it just keeps making me think to myself as we approach that milestone of Memorial Day. You ain't that team right now. I mean, you just really are not that team from last year that went on the world champion run, that team that reloaded, so it appeared, at the beginning of this season. Listen, Brian Snicker tried a few things. He tweaked the lineup, put Matt Olson in at the 5th hole, and moved Austin Riley to the 7th hole,
Yep.
gave Travis Demeritte the day off, brought William Contreras in at left
That
field.
what we're
Mark
calling it.
Jr. was at right field. I mean, moves were made. Moves were made to try to do something to jumpstart that offense, if you will. But even on the defense, you had some head scratchers in terms of, just I don't know. It was just like a puzzling. Like every time I kind of checked in, I was just scratching my head every time. Now, there
Yeah.
were a few things that I liked that we saw. You talked about it yesterday in terms of what you wanted to see from William Contreras
Right.
and gave you something solid in the outfield, but also gave you 2 of 4 in his at bat. So that was good. And a run scored. Good deal there. Dylan Lee gave you what you needed, being called up from Gwinnett, and he
Solid.
was able to give you 2 and 2/3 innings, got a couple strikeouts, only 1 walk, but more importantly, helped to stretch it so that the night shift didn't get tasked or taxed too much last night, and then you can get reset for tonight. But man, Jarvis, I don't know about what we're seeing over there at Truist Park. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, when you think about it though, like let's start with Tucker Davidson, right? There's a sore a sight for sore eyes, right, in that 5th spot
Yeah,
in the rotation, right? You know,
no
some
question.
the Braves have to figure that thing out
They
because
do.
like we as much as we talked about how much the front end of that rotation is starting to really lock in, and we're gonna
Yeah,
know who's gonna
yeah.
be 1, 2, 3, and
Mm-hmm.
4, on a night out basis. Excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
But that 5th starter, like something has to be done. Like we have to
Yeah.
figure that thing out now. Granted, you know, it's I guess is if we're complaining about the 5th starter in the rotation, I guess you're not. It's not too much of an issue. You can kind of figure
Mm-hmm.
that thing out. But I think the thing that I found consistent, after watching
Mm-hmm.
games and stuff like that, looking at some of the numbers and stuff like that,
Yeah.
everybody big on numbers and when it comes to baseball,
Mm-hmm.
right? The one thing that has been really consistent night in, night out is the Braves are probably going to strike out double digits at least
Easily.
every night. And I'm
Yeah.
just like, man, and like, I don't care what the situation is. I don't even have to know what the situation is. If you're
Mm-hmm.
striking out that much,
Yeah.
like that's more than likely you missing out on a lot of opportunity to score runs. And that
Yeah.
has been the case. That has definitely
Yeah.
been the case. And I don't even, and some guys that you're counting on that are struggling, and it just seems like it's not going to work. Like I don't even
Mm-hmm.
know what Snick can possibly do in
Yeah.
those particular situations, like because they need a shock. They need somebody to come
Mm-hmm.
out of nowhere. Maybe it is William Contreras playing in the outfield. Maybe that can be
Right.
something that can kind of get this team going. And then
Mm-hmm.
once Ronald Acuna is able to play every day,
Yeah.
which seems like it can't get here no faster. You
Right.
know what I'm saying? So I just think those two things right there
Mm-hmm.
just really stand out to me. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, you're struggling with that fifth rotation spot, and then
Mm-hmm.
guys are just leaving the plate, they're not even being productive. Like when you
Yeah.
strike out, that means so many things. That
Yeah.
that means you're not being productive as somebody
No.
on base. Like you even
Right.
just put the bat on the ball. Like that
Yeah.
at the end of the day. Like go back to Little League because that's when I
Hmm.
stopped playing. My illustrious baseball career ended
Hmm.
in Little League. Like
Yeah.
put the bat on the ball, man. I used to strike out a lot. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So until I figured it out, but it's a mental thing seemingly because
Oh, absolutely.
everybody's struggling in the same area. So, like you said, this isn't that team right now. I've come to the conclusion that it's before Memorial Day, but I've come to the conclusion that this isn't the team from last year
Yeah.
because
And
you had so many guys that were just tearing it up,
yeah.
and some of those guys aren't here anymore.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what we're looking at right now. This isn't a
Mhm.
team, and they're gonna have to figure out an identity at some point.
Yeah, and figure out how to string it together in all phases of the game. Or at least if you have a bad defensive night, Adam Duvall, like literally call for the
Lord,
ball. You
Lord,
can't go to the plate and then be 0 for 4. Like those two things can't happen in the same game. And to your point, too often with the Braves, we're seeing them, the same player who's struggling at the plate, then he goes into the field, whether that's infield, outfield, the pitcher's mound, and it just, I mean, he's doing damage there as well. So yeah, they've got to figure something out. And I know that fifth rotation spot may not be as important as a first, second, or third, but where it does pose some challenges and some questions because you do start to look to say, okay, well, if I'm getting the goods from Spencer Strider, who's getting me to where I need to be in terms of the bullpen and setting Kenley Jansen up to close, then he's good. But do I want to pull him out of that rotation to pull
yep.
him into that fifth spot and then kind of cause too much of a challenge and a shift and too much of a burden and tasking on the bullpen? So interesting to see what happens. But then again, Jarvis, we could be having a much different conversation tomorrow because Max Fried is on the mound tonight. So we shall see how it goes. But a conversation that won't change unless, I always say, unless hearts change, because that's the only way minds and conversations change is if the heart changes. And sometimes when you are in crunch situations or you're comfortable, you tend to say whatever it is that you really wanted to say, right? Because that's
Mm-hmm.
what you really meant. And that's kind of, sort of, what has happened with Josh Donaldson. So, of course, we all kind of know the high level story of what happened with him in
Right.
terms of the comment that he made to Tim Anderson Saturday in the Yankees White Sox game. Anderson took exception to it. And Donaldson, of course, gets a fine meted out to him. So on Monday, after an investigation from Major League Baseball, it was determined that he'll be suspended for one game that he would potentially serve after he comes off the COVID list. He just went on to the COVID list. And he also, I know,
Shocking.
right? Suspicious timing. But also, he's, uh, he's receiving a
Got to pay
fine.
that mortgage.
Yeah,
The mortgage
right.
payment coming up.
So he's been fined as well. And he, of course, is battling that fine because he felt like making the comment of calling Tim Anderson Jackie was just something that he was doing based on some comments that Anderson made in an interview for a magazine a couple of years ago. Now, a couple things there that caught my eye. So I'll make these statements, or I'll share these statements with you, and then I'll get your feedback, and then I'll come back with my thoughts because I have thoughts.
Hmm.
But the pitching coach, the White Sox pitching coach, Ethan Katz said, quote, he didn't think the penalty was enough. Just one game, we all saw his malice, keyword, malice at third a week ago. Then this comment with the ridiculous excuse that followed. What's the point of, or message behind a one game suspension? This is incredibly disappointing and plain frustrating. Whereas the Yankees manager, if you will, Aaron Boone, said he disagreed with MLB's decision. Quote, I think they were thoughtful and did their due diligence, but I don't agree with it. I don't think it warranted a suspension. So, that being said, Jarvis, a couple things that stood out for me was exactly what Kat said, which was the messaging, the malice, and the intent. I got a
Yeah.
problem with this.
Yeah. I have a problem with it, right?
Yeah.
So kind of like I want to kind of hit on Josh Donaldson, then I kind of respond to
Yes.
them on the back end. So
Yes. Let's hit
with
on the
Josh,
on Brave first, and yeah.
yeah, like Josh Donaldson is a person that when you look at the landscape and kind of what's wrong with the majority of the people of these people in this country, right? I'm not saying all white people, but some white people feel like they can speak on opinion, have an opinion on, or joke about
Hmm.
any and everything, no matter who they're talking to or no matter who they're the person they are speaking with and what type
Yeah.
of relationship they have with them. Notice I said the type of relationship I have with them. Because Josh Donaldson, if you feel like you can say or call this man Jackie Robinson just because he referred to himself as Jackie Robinson,
Yes.
you know how type of relationship that he has with himself? Like he
Yeah.
knows himself, right? He knows
Hmm.
every little intricacy, fine intricacy about who he is as a person, what he's gone through, who he is as a
Yes.
man, and and his family and everything. Like you got so many things. But if you feel like you can do that, I got one question for you, Josh.
Hmm.
What does Tim Anderson drink? What is his alcohol of choice?
Hmm.
Because guess what? I know pretty much all of mine, all of my guys that I call, all of my partners that I call, that I'm real close with, all the
Hmm.
people that I kick it with and hang with and know who I am and know how I get down, they know what I get down with, and I know what they get down with.
Yeah.
And if you can't answer that question, you don't need to be referring to him as that in a joking manner. Because
Hmm.
that's the problem. You feel like you can say and do anything without any consequence. It doesn't work like that. And it
Hmm.
is not part of the cancel culture and all that crap. It's about a personal understanding and respect factor. That's what it's
Hmm.
all about. And
Yes.
he knows what you meant when you said that crap. He knows that you weren't doggone giving him kudos,
Right.
or he was saying like, "Oh man, you playing like Jackie Robinson." Yeah, Jackie. You know what I mean? Like that's how he took it, and that's how he should have taken it.
Yeah.
So yeah, the fact that it only is one game, T, like
Yeah.
that's how you know
Yes.
it's a organizational, it's a structural, it's a big
Hmm.
overall big picture
Hmm.
type issue
Yeah.
because they looking at it like, it wasn't that big a deal. We'll give them a one game and so they can go away and
Right.
stop talking about it.
Yeah.
Nah, it that doesn't sit well with me and T, and it doesn't surprise me because we're talking about baseball.
Yeah.
Like
But it.
this is the issue. It's been an issue for quite some time, and especially when we see two African American managers in the entire league since Jackie Robinson
Hmm.
spoke on it some
Yeah.
y'all years ago. Yeah, that's where we are. That's where we are, and it's not going to get better because
Yeah.
the people in power don't give a damn.
Right. And you, Major League Baseball, are the league that trots out Jackie Robinson this and Jackie Robinson
Yeah,
that and
every
Jackie
year.
Robinson today.
Yeah, look at us. We tied
And
every
yes,
number. Man, get out of here with
yes.
that
And
crap,
yet
surface
you
crap.
don't see is it, and again, that goes back to having someone at the table. Do you have
Hmm.
someone in, say, a diversity, equity, and inclusion space that can help you to understand why you didn't get in it, why Tim Anderson did not give Josh Donaldson an invitation to say that. Now, I'm going to
Right.
give you two examples. They're going to be strong, so clutch your pearls and get ready. But here's the example that I thought about as a female. Number one, you don't get to call me sweetie, babe, love, or any of that unless I give you an invitation to do it because I don't
Indeed.
know you like that. But for
Right.
those who know me like that and I know them like that and we have that relationship in that comfort zone, yeah, you can call me that or we can joke around or you all know only certain people can call me by my nickname. The rest of you people can refer to me as Tenitra. We can all keep moving. So that's that invitational space, that space, like you said, that you are in when you know someone or you at least know them enough to be able to speak in that way. The other piece is this. See, when a black person, and everybody doesn't have to agree, I'm not saying I agree or disagree, I'm just giving you a line of demarcation so you can understand. Black people will use the N word in communication with each other, and it will have a decidedly different meaning when there's an ER on it and an A on the
Hmm.
end. And that's one example. While a stronger example, it just speaks to the fact that there are spaces and places that you have to be careful to understand where it is that you're going. And at the end of the day, when you ask yourself what your real intent was, Josh Donaldson, really and truly, it sounds to me like you threw that out there and then you came back with the explanation that you may have found for why you said what you said. But
Exactly.
10 seconds before you said it, did you even know that article existed? Did you even know Tim Anderson actually said such a thing?
Come on.
I doubt it seriously. If
Yeah.
I'm wrong, and I'll take these words back, but I doubt it seriously. That's a word. that when used in the wrong context, we know what we know, we see what we see, we hear what we hear. Just like there's another word that people keep using coming out of the side of their necks and using out of context that Jarvis and I have a problem with. You want to know what that word is? While it's not as intense and serious as this conversation, it does get us a little riled up. You'll hear about it on the other side in For the Culture.